on some of these numbers. We're going to see if we can't make heads or tails on this lineup here tonight. We'll come up with a couple of best bets. We'll check in with the contrarian gods. We'll focus on the total, maybe come up with a dog or two. And we'll do it, of course, with three of the best at WagerTalk. So we got back in the house, Double R1L, Steve Merrill, ready to talk some hoops here. RC back in action here, Mr. Ronald Kabang. And, of course, Rob Vino ready to roll here on this Wednesday, gentlemen. And like we always do, I'm going to start with the contrarian gods, fresh off of their Houston Rockets pick yesterday that stayed within the number there. And now tonight, they're looking at the Philadelphia 76ers, and they might very well just be the only people looking at the Philadelphia 76ers here tonight. I mean, talk about contrarian. My goodness. What was this? 1, Merrill? And now it's 5.5. So literally nobody wanting anything to do with the Sixers. Isn't that exactly the whole point of the contrarian gods, is to when everyone's running left, we go right here?
Yes, we zig and we zag. That's the NBA playoffs, so this is the regular season, so not sure the zigzag is going to work yet. First of all, I'll make this quick because I did a standalone solo video for this game here on WagerTalk TV today, and I am documented in that video saying I like the Warriors. So I am going to fade the contrarian play here, but I'm with you, Joe. I don't like to fade the down and out, the contrarian moves. And one of the reasons I think it has gone from 1.5 to 5 is because Tyrese Maxey is listed as questionable all day, and he's still questionable on the 3:30 Eastern injury report. Embiid is definitely out. He had surgery yesterday on Tuesday on his knee. They're going to reevaluate it in 4 weeks, so he's out for a while. And that's bad news because Rob Vino's Philadelphia 76ers are 4-11 straight up this season without Embiid, and they are in terrible current form. They're just 1-6 straight up their last 7. And it's not just on offense. They've struggled on defense as well. And normally you'd say, well, maybe an opponent overlooks them. But the fact this is the ESPN national TV game, the fact that Golden State is just 22-25 on the season, they can't overlook this game. They just handled Philly a little over a week ago on January 30th by 12 at home as a 4-point favorite. So, yes, this is probably an overreaction, and normally those little things would concern me, but I'm in no hurry to play Philly. And to put this in perspective, the 4-11 record without Embiid would equate to a 22-60 regular season record. So if this was like the Wizards right now, we'd say 5 probably looks cheap. This is just not the same Philadelphia team that overall this season, I believe, with Embiid has gone 26-8. 2 different tales right now. And Maxey might not play tonight. Let's not forget that. He's an all-star, and they're double teaming him now. Dallas did that Monday in the 12-point win. He was just 6 for 16 shooting and held to 15 points, and now he's questionable tonight. So I'm going to go contrarian to the contrarian and take the Warriors, which is kind of a square play probably.
Oh, it's definitely going to be square here tonight. So, RC, I need you to make it make sense. While, yes, Philadelphia is not. Weren't we sticking a fork in this Warriors team not just 2 weeks ago, but now all of a sudden they're worth this kind of move? I'm a little suspect about it. What are you thinking here?
No, I feel the same way. I know if you look at recent form, I mean, Sixers lost 6 of their last 7. They failed to cover 7 of their last 9. You look at the Warriors, I think ever since, they had that little that layoff because of the death of their coach, they've kind of turned things around. They've covered 7 of their last 10 games, but this is the first leg of back-to-back games for them. I know typically this is more of a fade spot, but they've actually been doing pretty good in that situation. 7-2 ATS this season on the front end of back-to-back games. Like I said, recent form says to play the Warriors, but obviously Embiid was already known to be out. And at some books, I'm looking here, some books they actually opened the Sixers as favorites, and then it shifted towards the Warriors. And then with Maxey, downgraded to questionable, potentially out, they shifted the line even a little bit more. The thing about that is, I feel like this is a situation where they've overinflated the line. Obviously Maxey, especially if Maxey is going to be out, maybe another half point or even a full point move. I think this is a situation where you kind of wait for that status because one thing that I looked at, so if it's just Embiid out, they tend to struggle against the number. But if it's both Embiid and Maxey and they're a dog in that situation, they've lost both games, but they covered by a few points. So it's that one thing where they're overinflating the line because of the names that are out, but they still got a decent roster that's able to keep up with this type of Warriors team who's on, like I said, on the first leg of back-to-back games. So if I was gonna bet this game, I would probably wait for the status of Maxey. If Maxey is in, I'd probably stay away. If he's out, I would probably look towards the Philly side if or when they get the line like sort of
Mm.
situated.
It's Vino. Come on, man, make it make sense. This is usually the part of the card where we go, oh, come on. You got to be getting. Now, what happens if Maxey is ruled out? Does this go to like 12? Like, what are we doing here, Vino? Make it make sense here.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think, Joe, the best way to play it, if you like Golden State, and I wouldn't argue anybody off a full game, but maybe you want to play first half here -2.5, simply because Ronald hit on it a little bit that they have Indiana on deck tomorrow, and Draymond Green actually has a question mark next to his name right now. So that could be a sign that Steve Kerr is going to look to protect minutes maybe in this game. Philadelphia is not going to back off pace. And you read some of the quotes from Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey. It's going to be, without Joel, our only asset is speed. We got to get downhill, all kinds of quotes from these guys talking about playing fast. So I would expect Tyrese Maxey goes here, Joe. But if he can't, obviously you're right. You better get in on Golden State now because it probably does increase by another half full point after this. The Klay Thompson thing is interesting, right? Being benched a couple of times in the fourth quarter recently. And I even saw reports this morning that Philly's inquired about Klay Thompson coming to Philadelphia. So we'll see if that happens or not. Little speculation there. Hasn't shot the ball well. But to the point of Golden State playing well recently, three of their last four wins, or excuse me, all three of the last four games they've won. They win by 12, they win by 11, they win by 20. That's a lot more than 5.5. Philadelphia, last four losses, 16, 15, 12, and 26. The 12 was against this Golden State team the game Embiid got hurt. So they were still getting beat in that game, even when Joel went out. I don't know. It's hard to like the Sixers here, Joe. It's hard to build a case. I would say if I were going to play Golden State side, I would probably look first half -2.5. But they might make that. Philadelphia's made the 5 look like a small losing margin lately, and Golden State's made it look like a small winning margin lately. So take that for what it's worth. But I'm not going to side with the contrarian gods. We bucked them with the Rockets. We got away with. How about trying to get away with it twice in a row, Joe?
Oh, well, let's see what we got here tonight, guys, as the Sixers taking on the Golden State Warriors. There should be an interesting one here tonight. We do have a featured matchup, as a matter of fact, here that we're going to be taking a look at, and it involves what many people consider being maybe the best team in the NBA here, as the Clippers taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. Clippers back home after it feels like a 2-month sabbatical on the road, taking on these Pelicans. I guess Zion's still questionable here, Merrill. But I don't know. Feels like a lot of points for a team who's just getting home from a crazy long road trip here, or does it not matter in your mind?
Well, Zion definitely matters, and he only had 16 points in the last game 2 nights ago on Monday. He's averaging 22 plus a game, but his total's around only 21 for this game. And he was also very limited when these teams played back a month ago in early January. Back on January 5th, Pelicans lost by 16 at home in that game. Did not shoot the ball well, but Williamson only played 19 minutes, only had 12 points. So hard to read a lot into without knowing the status there. But this is a Clipper team you probably don't want to be playing against anytime soon. They have the best record in the NBA since December 1st. Over the last couple months, they've been the best team in the NBA. Cleveland's pretty close, and Cleveland beat them by 10 recently. Other than that, though, the Clippers have been doing pretty darn well. With that said, they entered this game off 4 straight wins, and they'd won 5 before. So they're 9-1. If you throw out that Cleveland game, it's the 9-0 straight up, 8-1 ATS the other 9 games recently. Yet this line is only around 6. So it looks like a cheap price. I am concerned that they return home off the 7-game road trip. That's probably not an ideal setup. But this is your ESPN national TV game, which makes me think Zion Williamson is going to probably try to play. I'm just not sure he's 100% healthy if he does. Clippers not a team I'm looking to fade in a basic straight up win situation at home on national TV.
Well, it's tough to go. I mean, train we want to get in front of RC in this one. What are you thinking here? And again, still obviously Zion's a pretty important part here, but what are you thinking?
Now, you called one of the spots out there. The Clippers playing their first game home off a long 7-game road trip. They went up and down that East Coast, and now this is actually their third game in 4 nights as well. After that, a whole bunch of travel. So, and for me, this is normally a fade spot. I know on the season when traveling from road to home versus a rested opponent, the Clippers actually struggled in that situation. 1-6 ATS, 5-2 to the under. In those games, they're averaging just 112.7 points per game. They were actually in the same exact spot, going from road to home versus a rested team against the same Pelicans team earlier this season. And the Pelicans won that game outright 106-116. If we look at the last 5 games as well, the Pelicans, they've been the better defensive team overall. To me, I feel like the situation as far as like the potential travel fatigue on the Clippers side, and also, recent form as far as defense, I got to look towards the Pelican side. The other thing that I could look at too, if you want to stay away from a side perspective, this could be a situation where you fade the Clippers offense and take their team total under.
Ooh. And you know what? I don't hate that either there. It's a good look. What are you thinking, Vino, in this one here? The situational spot says maybe we should look at New Orleans, but it's a tough train to get in front of here with this Clippers team, no?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it. I know this isn't the totals portion of this show, Joe, but I'll talk about this game from a totals perspective only because I want to talk about it from a side perspective coming up in another segment. But I think that the people who got to under 235 at the opener was the right move. I think Ronald started to talk about it a little bit. This game has all the makings of an under on it. We just talked about the LA first game home after a 7-game road trip. But how about this crazy schedule for New Orleans? 4 home, 1 road, and now 4 more road. 8 of 9 games on the road. 1 stupid home game jammed in between. How crazy is that? So it's a big road trip for New Orleans. 2 LAs going to be on today and Friday, and then Portland and Memphis after that. But that scheduling spot just seems to be as hard to me as it is for the Clippers. So Ronald laid out some defensive numbers for New Orleans. I agree with that. The 2 games that they've played so far this season were a 222 and a 206. Not really anywhere near what the current now is 231. You may have lost some value here, Joe, in that number. You didn't get the best of the number, but I still think there's wiggle room here where we'll probably see a little bit of road fatigue on even if we get 1/2 where they only throw up like 49 or 50. You're probably going to stay underneath 231. So that's the way I would look in this game. I think it's a pretty good spot here for both of these teams to play a more defensive-minded, lower-scoring game.
All right, there you go, guys. So New Orleans and the Clippers, maybe a little bit lower scoring. Intriguing game for sure, as that number just continues to be a bit of a head-scratcher here. But got a few other games here we're going to take a look at, including a total, if we can here, guys, in our overtime section. Going to be interested to see what you guys think of this one with, look at that, the Celtics and the Hawks, 244.5. And I guess the thing that shocks me here, Merrill, is that it's kind of remained stagnant for most of the day here. Usually with these two teams, we'd see some sort of push one way or the other. 244.5. Can I interest you in an over in this spot here tonight in Boston?
Yeah, that's the sign of a good line, right? Where it doesn't move much one way or the other, because that means they got it pretty balanced, and that appears to be the case. This line's only been moving a 0.5 point up or down all day on the total. It's hovered anywhere from the 244 to 245 range. So we'll say 244.5 is the consensus number right now, and definitely not going to get me interested in an under in an Atlanta game anytime this season. They're a historically bad point spread team right now. They're on a pace to maybe be the worst point spread team in the NBA history. I do think at some point we get a reversion back to some value with them. And this line is pretty big, by the way, 12.5. I'll talk about that a little bit later here in one of the next segments. And this is an Atlanta team that's won 4 of their last 5, but don't think they've started to play defense during that win span. They haven't. This is a team that's given up, 53% or worse in 5 of their last 7 games still defensively. They don't stop anybody. Boston just put up 131 and 129 in 2 of their last 3 games, and they're in good current form offensively. They're rested 2 days off. They only have not my Washington Wizards on deck on Friday. So it looks like a high-scoring focus spot for both teams tonight.
All right. Well, there we go. It's going to be an interesting game here tonight, RC, not just from a side perspective, but from a total perspective. Is it a over or pass spot for you, or are you thinking there's some value on the under in this one?
Potentially some value to the under. I know this is sort of a higher total for a Celtics game. One thing that I looked at on their side is, how do they do in these situations where their totals are like 240 or more? They're actually 6-2 to the under this season in that spot. Also, when they're double-digit favorites, they tend to lock down defensively, not really focus on the offensive side of the ball. Opponents, when the Celtics are double-digit favorites, they're only averaging 107.3 points per game. And they've actually gone under in 4 straight games as double-digit favorites as well. So those things are trending in that direction. I know the Hawks, they've kind of looked good offensively, especially lately, but the last 6 games have all been at home. One thing that I noticed with the Hawks, their offense is different home and road. On the road, they average 5 or 5.5 points less than they do on the road than they do at home. If you look at the last 8 games on the road specifically, they're only averaging about 113.8. To me, I think this is one of the situations where you have this Celtics team really good defensively. They play a slower pace. On the Hawks side, you have DeJounte Murray, who got downgraded to questionable. A lot of trade rumors there. Not sure if the Hawks are going to be think or even focused on this game because they player moving forward after the trade deadline. I'm not too sure I can trust them to go over this high total. Last time these two teams played, combined for just 216 points. So it's definitely doable to me. So I think maybe look towards the under. I know it's moved a little bit towards that direction, but I do agree with the market that maybe the under is the way to go.
All right. Maybe get a little bit more like playoff style basketball here, Vino. Something tells me you may not be on board with that, though. So is this a spot where you think maybe we get a little more offense than / defense in this one?
Let me ask you this, Joe, because you just said maybe we get a little playoff-like style basketball. Does the Atlanta Hawks playoff style basketball involve defense? Is this any different at that point in time? Because
no, it involves them missing a lot of baskets. That's what their playoff basketball means. They don't score any points.
You know what else they don't do, Joe? They don't play overtime in their last 6 games. They don't play overtime, but yet they're able to get game final score totals of 293, 275, 249, 260, 251, 291. Twice in the last 6-7 games, they've gotten over 290 without overtime, and 246. All of those 7 games are better than 244. I mean, Boston could probably go out in uniforms like Merrill wears in that WagerTalk photo that we have of him and score.
Dominate. You're going to say dominate. The word dominate better follow.
I mean, those guys could probably go out with their 1940 style and score 140 against this team. It's unbelievable. They've been matching points with everybody lately. I know we pointed this out last time, but Teddy did mention how health has finally come full circle for the Hawks, and they have everybody healthy. Ronald pointed out DeJounte Murray tonight. Obviously, he's a key. But they just seem addicted to this style of basketball. And I know we could take season overall numbers and maybe make a case for under, because I tell you the truth, Joe, Atlanta on the road this year, their games average 241 points a game, yet they play more unders than overs. They're 10-12 over under in those road games, which is crazy to average 241 and still not be able to play more overs and unders. But I'm going to go off of recent form. These numbers are just overwhelming right now. It doesn't seem to me like they care how many they give up. They're going to try and outscore you. And it's got some weaponry. Boston's a huge favorite in this game too. So if Atlanta doesn't shoot, Boston's going to win this game by 35. If Atlanta doesn't shoot, it's going to be like 140 to 105, somewhere in that area. But I can't play under. I mean, Steve said it earlier. He has no interest in playing a Hawks under game for the rest of the season. I don't know that I could either, unless they're going to make these totals 260.
Yeah, it's I think it's going to be an interesting test here tonight for the Hawks and maybe some of that newfound success here. And we'll see what Boston has to say about that. But we do have 7 games on the card, which means 7 dogs. A few of them might be barking here tonight. Inevitably, a few will be barking here tonight. So we're going to go around the horn and check these dogs out. And let's see what we got here, Robert, for tonight's games.
That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. And anybody got to say anything, you let me know. That's my dog.
All right, let's check it out. The Wizards. Wow, nobody saw that coming. The Hornets. Woo, there's a shocker for you. The Hawks are getting a dozen. We got the 76ers, the Pelicans, the Pistons, the Spurs. Man, that's some ugly dogs here tonight, Merrill, with some large-ass numbers. So which one of these ugly-ass dogs might we be deciding might just very well bark back here tonight?
As we talked about yesterday, ugly dogs need love too, but I agree it's a pretty ugly card here tonight. There's not many that I like, but I'm going to go to a team that I think there maybe is some upside, and they're catching double digits, so we're not going to ask them to win the game, but maybe at least cover, and that's the Atlanta Hawks plus 12.5. As I mentioned during the overtime segment, they've been on a historically bad point spread run this season, but as is often the case, things come back and they start to revert. This is a team that started 11-35 against the spread. But don't look now. They've covered 3 of their last 4. They have won 3 of their last 4. I'm sorry, they've won 4 of their last 5 while covering 3 of their last 4. And their only loss was on Monday against the Clippers, the best team in the league right now, by just 5 at home. And that was a 4-point spread. So it does appear like the odds makers have finally made the adjustment. And I have no problem taking the full 12.5 tonight with a team that is playing better in good current form and has offensive firepower in what we think will be a high-scoring game, as we just talked about, against a Celtic team that just easily won by 40 points at home against Memphis. They got back after their Laker loss. They'd won the 2 before that. They don't need to blow Atlanta out. I know they don't have anybody big on deck with the Wizards Friday, but still, this is just a win and get it done. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Hawks get another cover tonight. I think they're live at plus 12.5.
All right, live and live. That's what we want, RC. We want big money dogs barking, baby, tonight. God, this is ugly. Which one might be barking for you, my man?
Yeah, the Spurs. Plus, we're seeing plus 8 right now. The Heat right here, like they're in multiple fade situations. Second leg of back-to-back games this season, they kind of struggled in that situation. 1-4, 1-4-1 ATS on the second leg of back-to-back games. They tend to also struggle as heavy favorites at home. 2-7 against the spread at home when favored by more than 4 points. They tend to play down to their opponent's level. So one thing that I looked at here, looking at teams below 400 when they're against those types of teams, 6-13 against the spread, including 2-6 ATS at home. If you look at the Spurs side, one thing that I like to do or look at when it's kind of taking a dog is look at their defense. And one thing that the Spurs have been doing pretty well has been their defense. Actually, they kept 6 straight opponents under their team total. If you look at the last 5 game stats specifically, they're actually 11th in the league in defensive rating. I know the Spurs, they're on the front end of back-to-back games, but they're young. One thing that I looked at for them on the first leg back-to-back games, they've actually covered 6 straight in that situation. And then they got the Wembanyama, his minutes restrictions have been lifted. We're seeing him a little bit more. They're well rested. They haven't played. I think they have like 3 days of rest compared to 0 for the Heat. So for me, I think defense, the rest advantage, those are going to be the key factors for the Spurs to keep within 8 here.
All right. Certainly have the rest advantage in their favor. It could be a barking night here in Miami, Rob Vino. Which one of these might be barking for you here tonight? Granted, they are all, I'd have to drink a 12-pack before any of these bark here, Vino. So what are you thinking tonight?
Well, I don't know that drinking with Willie Green was on my bucket list, but I would do it for sure if the Pelicans are going to cover 6 points.
Yes.
Drink with Willie Green. Hopefully we wouldn't need it. We talked about the scheduling situation for both. I think the Clippers is a little bit worse. 11 days on the road, then the 12th day of flight home, and now pick up and play after you've just gotten to number one seed in the Western Conference. I think the stakes are a little higher for New Orleans here, right? All of a sudden, remember how badly Phoenix struggled for the majority of the season. And when you look at the standings now, Phoenix is a team that's in the last actual playoff spot. New Orleans is on the outside looking in at number 7 in a play-in spot. So they need to win some games here. The final 2 of the trip are really winnable. See if they can get the Clippers. They've had, up until the last game, that real success against this team. They're 10-2 last 12 against the Clippers. So this is a team New Orleans generally plays really, really well, on a good point spread run at this point in time. And their offense, 2 times, I think in the last 4 games, they've scored 138 and 153. Granted, against lesser defenses, but the offense really seems to be coming around. You worry a little bit about Zion, of course, that's been mentioned here, but I think that they have enough big game players here to stay within this number against the Clippers. Again, that first game home after 11 days out of town, 12 days out of town, is a pretty good fade situation. I think New Orleans in a close game here, and they've got the talent to win it if LA doesn't come ready to play. So hopefully there's a couple of quarters here where LA is a little bit road fatigued, and I'm going to try Pelicans +6 here against the Clippers.
That first game back after a couple of weeks, right? You got the wife, the kids, everyone. Oh, I'm seeing you. And it usually takes them a day to get adjusted. So not a bad idea here looking at the Pelicans tonight for a barking dog. And that leaves us, of course, some best bets here on a 7-game card tonight. Kind of narrow it down. We'll throw 60 seconds on the clock. Don't forget, if you're joining us here for the first time, smash that like button if you could. Also hit the subscribe button. Become part of the WagerTalk TV family, as nobody will have more daily and weekly content of all the big games across all the sports. Everything you need to know about making smart sports betting decisions is just a click away. Hit that subscribe button. As we'll send it back to Merrill, we'll throw 60 seconds on the clock, rather. There may or may not be a prop in this, and you'll understand, not a prop bet, but you'll understand what we're talking about here in a minute. So, Merrill, 60 seconds, man. Do your thing. Where are you going for a best bet?
Yeah, 60 cents. That's 50 cents with inflation. He has gotten heavier in recent years from what I've seen. And I hate to disappoint you, Joe, but I forgot the Iron City Beer Shirt. I've been so scrambled. I did 3 shows today: WagerTalk TV, college basketball, NBA, 6 solo videos, college and pro combined. So I'll bring the Iron City Beer Shirt tomorrow on Thursday, viewers. I'm not teasing you. I will find it. But once again, check out WagerTalk TV. A ton of great content. And oh, by the way, I've got 3 strong college basketball best bets and a bonus free play on my page for Wednesday night. Number 1 ranked over the past 30 days, over 54 units won in all sports. 42 and 26, 61%. It continues with 3 more strong best bets in college hoops and a bonus free play in college. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Free NBA play here for this show. Let's look up and over 226.5 Spurs and Heat. And now it's 227.5 within the last 30 seconds. This is steaming on the WagerTalk live odds screen. I agree with the move. Heat are playing much better offensively after snapping that 7-game losing streak. Spurs still not a good defensive team.
Ooh, all right. There you go. Still definitely not a good defensive team at all. All right. So, RC, come on, man. 7 games here. You pointed us in a couple of quality directions here. Give us the best bet for the show here.
Yeah, I mean, since Ski isn't here, I'll take his place in picking the ugliest dog on the board.
Yes.
Pistons +13. Current form, the Pistons have covered 9 of their last 11. Their offense is actually clicking. If you look at the last 10 games, 13th in the league in offensive rating compared to bottom 5, bottom 6 or something on the full season. So they've been doing a lot better in that situation. 11-6 ATS as double-digit dogs. They covered the last 6 instances in a row in that situation as well. If you look at the Kings side, they're coming off a nasty 7-game road trip. They've actually been on the road for 12 of their last 14 games. So a ton of travel there. Also a sandwich spot. They just faced one of the top teams in the East in the Cavs. Then they got the Nuggets on deck. The Kings as double-digit favorites, 1-3 ATS. And regarding that travel spot, this season when playing the first game home off at least a 2-game road trip, 0-4 ATS, including 2 outright losses against the Hornets as 15.5-point favorites, and then versus the Pacers, who didn't have Hallie. So yeah, take the Pistons plus 13.
Oh, love it. Pistons. And look at that. That is absolutely the winner today. Ugliest best bet. Outstanding. That is one hell of a belt, my man. Damn, is that disgusting. All right, Vino. I'm looking on the board. I don't know you can get a lot uglier than that, but damn if you won't try. So 60 seconds, my man. Where you rolling for a best bet here tonight?
Well, that was, Ronald actually had a double Ski bet because the other side of that game is Sacramento, where Ski would say, hell no. Sacramento,
hell no.
part of that team. So that's an absolute Ski profit best bet. Let me go back to Philadelphia Golden State here real quick, where I'll play the Golden State team total up and over 119.5 tonight. Philadelphia, over the last 10 games, the second worst rated defensive unit in the NBA. Warriors, meanwhile, over that course of time, the number 5 rated offense, picking it up a little bit offensively here, despite the fact that Klay Thompson hasn't played well. Warriors number 6 in pace kind of negates the Sixers' slow pace, but the Sixers, just one more time, real quick. This is Tobias Harris talking. Whether it's using our speed, using our quickness on the offensive end, and just making decisions, we got to get downhill, use our craftiness, and win these games. So I think you're going to see a pretty quick pace. I don't think 119.5 is too much to ask out of Golden State. We'll play them over 119.5.
Woo! Let the record show the only reason you got extra time there is because you backed the contrarian gods and the Rockets last night, but I digress. Let's move on to a recap, if we can, here, as R1L is going to look at that over in the Miami game here tonight, expecting very little defense here on the second of a back-to-back for him, 226.5. You just heard Vino say, not a big ask, Warriors, and that team total over 119.5 on the road against the Sixers. And with the ugliest damn best bet of the day, there it is. That is a hell of a belt, too. Wear it proud, my friend. The Pistons, plus 13. Sorry, I'm throwing up saying it. Plus 13 is the best bet of the day. There you got it, guys. All right, plenty of action all week long coming your way here, whether it be NBA, college hoops, plenty of games going on there tonight. Of course, best bets locked and loaded with all three of these gentlemen over at WagerTalk.com. Now would be a good time for you to go over there and visit them and hop on board, partner up with those best bets. It's a huge weekend in sports, and we have got you covered. So on behalf of these guys, we certainly appreciate you hanging out with us. Don't forget, back again tomorrow, another live edition of the NBA Tip-Off Show coming your way. And just in case you missed it, you're not going to be able to unsee it. And as long as we've seen it, you might as well see it. Steve Merrill, ladies and gentlemen, in his intramural days, as we get out of here. Best of luck with your plays. Let that sit in there for a while. We'll see you tomorrow.